Thanks for coming to MinnesotaBlack RobeRegiment. As always, views that are contrary to mine are incredibly welcome. My requirement is, if we're going to interact, that you be civil, that you refrain from ad hominems, general personal insults and whatnot are verboten. I'm not going to delete them. I might use them in the future to point out how you can demonstrate that you've lost an argument when you begin to come to the point of insulting. So that being said, I want to talk in this video about the use of the logical fallacy known as equivalence of the false equivalence fallacy, or the fallacy of false equivalency. So what that fallacy does is it takes two things that look like they could be the same or should be the same and sets them up to be, for lack of better terminology, exactly the same. And the reason this is done is that what the person who's using the fallacy of false equivalency is, they're trying to discredit your position by saying, yeah, well, this and this are the same, therefore because you hold to this but you don't hold to this, you can't be consistent. Now, there are times where that isn't a false equivalency, where it's not a fallacy. But what we do see is that when the argument that you're trying to make is grounded on nothing but emotion, the fallacy of false equivalency will come out quite frequently. So where am I going to apply this? So as we are 9 months, really almost 10 months into 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we're into a mask mandate that is nationwide, in the sense that you have to wear a mask everywhere you go in the United States on federal property. Current President Biden, soon to be President Harris, is trying to institute that all interstate travel requires mask, facial coverings, what have you. In other words, if you travel from Iowa to Illinois, from Illinois to Indiana, the presidential team, let's be frank, that's what it is. Biden is a figurehead, Harris is the president. The presidential team wants to require that you can't pass from state to state, you cannot travel interstate without a mask on. And they've also required that anybody who's on any federal land anywhere at any time has to have a mask on. Now, he doesn't have to wear one. President Biden doesn't have to wear one when he's on federal land, say like at the Lincoln Memorial the night of the inauguration, because he's got more important things to do, according to his press secretary, to worry about while he's celebrating. Yeah, that's sarcasm. So anyway, all of that to say that, and then they're bringing pressure to bear on states to institute mask mandates. And what they'll do is they'll start to threaten to cut federal funding to different states if they don't go along with the mask mandates and make it a law. And you're going to say, well, that will never happen. They can't do that. Well, they did it with things like the seatbelt law. They've done it with different things like drinking age. They've done it with speed limits and whatnot. So don't tell me it can't happen. Don't tell me it won't happen. Let's talk about facts. They've done it in the past. The federal government has brought financial pressure to bear on individual states and said, if you don't do this, you're losing X. So they could very well be doing that in the very near future. All of that aside, why is this important? People out there are the mask brown shirts, if you will, are demanding that everyone wear a mask everywhere they go. And now they're talking that everybody should be double masked. because a surgical mask is already 80% effective, and then when you cover it with a cloth mask, it becomes exponentially more effective. We're going to be talking about that in a different video. But where the false equivalency fallacy comes into play is, as a comment that was made to me in a conversation about masks, was, well, you're pro-life, so why don't you wear a mask? And people think, oh, there's your gotcha. You can't be pro-life and not wear a mask. So if you're going to be pro-life, in other words, if you oppose abortion, you say that you're pro-life, you must therefore also be pro-mask wearing. And those two, while they on the surface appear to be the same, an apple and an orange are the same in that they're fruits, they're not the same because of the argument that's being made. And here's why. Yes, I am opposed to abortion. I am anti-abortion. All abortion. I don't believe any abortion is okay at all. Now, child dies in utero, medical professionals need to do what they need to do to remove that dead child from the womb of the mother. But anybody who's taking part in abortion is actively harming a living human being who has different DNA, in the sense of they're distinctly different from the mother. They have they can have different blood types, and on and on and on. They're distinctly different. Now, should we care for them? Absolutely. But I oppose all abortion. Does that mean being pro-life, being against abortion, thinking that abortion not only should it be illegal, it should be a crime that is punishable by the most strict penalties? In other words, abortion providers, not only should abortion be made illegal, it should have a criminal penalty attached to it. And if you partake in abortion at any level, not only should you be tried, or charged, tried, convicted, and sentenced, those who actually are actively plotting to take the life of a preborn child and those who actually take the life of a preborn child should face the death penalty, period. It's wanton murder. It's murder. And it's not the kind of murder where it's like it can go either way, we don't really know. It's premeditated first-degree murder. It should face a death penalty. Because here's the deal. When you plot to murder your child in utero, it has no defense. Your child has no way of escaping that, and you know what you're doing. And the doctor who's taking part is actively doing that. There's no, well, it was an accident, I didn't mean to, I didn't know what I was doing. It's murder. So why then is it a false equivalency to say I'm pro-life, but I do not believe in mask mandates? Here's why. Even if a particular virus had a 50% survival rate, I, as a person who's healthy, am not a dangerous person to the person who is at high risk. As a healthy person, I am not dangerous. Even as a person who might have had contact with someone with that particular virus, I am not a risk to the person who is high risk. I'm definitely not a risk to a person who's not high risk. There are ways for people to be safe from a virus that they're afraid of without forcing someone else to do something that violates their right to the pursuit, their liberty to the pursuit of liberty, to the pursuit of joy, to the happiness, to the pursuit of whatever you want to call it that is enshrined within the Constitution. Those things are protected. Your right to be free from being afraid of me, however, is not. If you are afraid that you're going to get sick, you don't leave your house. Don't force me to stay home unless I choose to wear a facial covering by the governor's mandate. Okay? And furthermore, viruses have always existed. So as a Christian, I will tell you that viruses are a natural part of living in a sin-cursed world. However, this is where we start to run into, well, but shouldn't we be protecting people? Yeah, absolutely. People should be protected, but we have ways of protecting the vulnerable. We have ways of protecting people from people who are sick. I'm not talking about forced quarantine, but if you're sick, stay home. If you're afraid, stay home. If you're vulnerable, stay home. You have your groceries delivered. Don't tell me that I should have to have my groceries delivered if I don't want to wear a facial covering. Okay? Why is it I have to stay home? Why me? Why the other people who don't want to wear a mask? Why the other people who don't live in fear of a virus? Here's why. It's about control. So what you want to do is you want to use the pro-life argument against pro-life people, make protecting vulnerable people who have a choice to be sick or not. In other words, you don't have to go out and have contact with people in the world. You can utilize all these other means and methods for having your groceries delivered and your other goods delivered. You can quarantine yourself. I'm not sick. I don't have the virus. I'm not going to get tested for it, period. And even if I get sick, I'm still not going to get tested. And I'm not going to get a vaccine because I'm not going to live my life in fear. And I'm going to let the natural immune system that my body was designed with build itself, period. End of story. And you're already alive in the sense of you're outside of the womb, you're responsible for yourself, you can protect yourself. The child in the womb doesn't have those options. And the mother actively choosing to murder that child while she's wearing a mask to protect somebody else is the epitome of hypocrisy. And I've seen that. I've seen pictures of women. I've seen pictures of doctors. I've seen pictures of abortion mill workers walking in to the abortion mills wearing facial coverings because they're seeking to protect people from a virus that has a better than 98% survival rate. Let that sink in. Willing to murder a preborn child who is the image bearer of God that cannot defend itself, while you're requiring everyone in that clinic to wear a mask and to social distance so they don't get a virus that has a 98+% chance of survival. False equivalency is real and it's dangerous. And if you're a Christian, if you're a pro-life person, if you're against abortion, you should not let them kowtow you with that argument. That innocent preborn image bearer of God is as valuable and maybe to some degree more valuable than the person who thinks it's okay to murder that child so that the mother can live a life of comfort and ease. And let's be honest, the vast majority of abortions happen for comfort and ease. The person who wants that child murdered is far less valuable to society than that preborn child is. But yet they think they're superior because they're going to wear a mask and protect people who have a chance of surviving and can escape the threat of a virus. That child cannot escape the threat of a saline chemical abortion. That child cannot escape the threat of a surgical abortion where their necks are cut and their limbs are torn from them and they're torn asunder by someone bent on making money off the murder of that child. And you want to come at me with your false equivalency and say, if you're pro-life, you have to wear a mask. No, I'm pro-life and I'm not going to wear a mask. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. You stay home. Don't you dare murder a child. The means to resisting this lies in knowing your arguments. Murder of a preborn child is murder. Not wearing a mask, you can be protected from. You stay home. Sic semper tyrannis.